another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we're talking about 1977's Cathy's Curse as picked by Kyle. Kyle, tell us why Vinegar Syndrome is the reason why we're talking about this one.
Well, one, fuck you. It's Severin. Beyond the Door 3 was Vinegar Syndrome, so do not come at me so hot. So I'm feeling a little hurt. I don't know. It wasn't intentional. I know it was not aggressive. But I feel like Cathy's Curse could have hit a little differently if we didn't have Beyond the Door 3 play immediately before it. I don't know what order did you watch? What order did you all watch yours in?
So, all right. So, Wizard Behind the Curtain. I watched the first 15 minutes of Cathy's Curse on the original YouTube link that Scott sent us. Yeah. That was someone's like late night horror show host video.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it, and then we also like had to reschedule some recording stuff, and I got an extra week to watch it. So I was like, well, if Kyle says it's on Tubi, let's at least properly watch it on Tubi. Let me clarify. I don't dislike this movie. I just don't like this movie.
You did give it 1.5 star on Letterboxd, Matt. Okay.
Yeah, that's about half a star more than I wanted to give it.
This is why I don't have a Letterboxd, so that I can keep Kyle guessing when we get to his movies.
Yeah, I never know what Scott's
Scott, are you low-key a huge fan of this?
This could be Scott's
like
favorite
your
movie.
we've
Yeah,
ever
it was
done?
actually really hard to talk for 45 minutes about Beyond the Door 3, knowing that I was going to have to then follow it up with this, with how much I loved it. There's just so much. It's such a rich tapestry upon which we just need to take a shit.
So Scott's right. It's a beautifully rich tapestry of a film that I remember liking or having a lot more fun with than I did this time. It did take me 3 times to finish Cathy's Curse in this viewing. So but it has these. I mean, for
there
me,
are moments. I think that you could trim this down to like 5 minutes. Where I'm like,
and there are two different
these
cuts
are some
of it.
great 5 minutes of film.
Is there a 5-minute cut?
I think there is a 90. You wish there is there's the director's cut, which might be the one that is on Tubi, which is 93 minutes, and then there is like an 87 minute. It doesn't do much for it, but there are 2 cuts of it. And listen, I think that there's something interesting about kids, possessed kids, dolls, and then kind of like the moments where all those things can go wrong. And Cathy's Curse has all of those things. It has it doesn't have like a punk ass kid as in the Italian horror films that we've talked about, but it does have a kid who needs an attitude adjustment. But it's not her fault.
Hold on a second. Let me pull up the Wikipedia, because I think part of my disappointment was, I do a little bit of research before watching the movie. I don't like read the plot synopsis or anything, but I take a look for like, what's like some trivia, what's the critical, is there anything interesting to say critically? And like the critics hated this movie. It's obviously since gotten a little bit of a cult following, but I think it was when I read the line, "This dull Canadian exorcist-inspired horror film is full of bloody mutilations, makeup, and inept special effects." And I was like, oh, man, I can't wait to see these bloody mutilations. And never did they come. I kept waiting for something where I'd be like, all right, it's low budget, but man, did they really like put some time in the makeup for this scene? No. But it fails every way. I will say the first minute, this is one of my favorite notes I've written in a long time, and it is squandered on the audience who has almost definitely not seen this movie. But we get this flashback, and this dad runs in, and he grabs his daughter, Laura, and they get into the car, and then I wrote, I love this Super Nintendo RPG-inspired theme music that's playing right here.
It's Dungeon Synth. It's Dungeon Synth music. Because when Kyle was saying the things that he loves about this movie, like the things that he loves, the ingredients of this movie, like possessed kids, bad kids, and possessed dolls, bad dolls.
The dolls.
I was like, you're missing one very important thing. Dungeon Synth. Everybody loves Dungeon Synth. It's so sad that the movie doesn't have like a true soundtrack full of that shit, because I would have really enjoyed
no, it's
my
just
watch.
those for 30 seconds.
The movie's middle name is inconsistent. Kathy's inconsistent curse. It is nuts.
Boy, is it, man. Like, this sums up everything, actually. I found the note in my notes that sums it all up. And I said, I've never been less bothered by a dead dog in a movie by how ineffective the dead dog makeup is. like it is. You know what? This is Can of Red the movie. Like, they just threw Can of Red on things and was like, there, that's a dead dog. And it's just like the dog is napping on a rock.
How can yeah, it's dead. It's dead. It's right there. They didn't even freeze frame. They didn't even freeze frame the thing, you know?
Yeah, it's
like
still breathing. It's like...
Kyle, I think that we have to explain to Matt that when a pet dies, they just don't look like they're asleep. They're not just sleeping forever.
No.
I think we need to take
No, I get, but you know what I mean? Like,
death.
we've seen movies where they find a dead dog and it is upsetting.
Oh,
like they
yeah.
like really took the time to make. I'm like, there's not even a part of my brain that can suspend that this dog has died.
They did the thing where they like dig the hole a little bit in the ground so that like it doesn't look like it's moving, you know?
Yeah, it's like this is rough.
A lot more money and time was spent on some of those things sometimes. This was not one of them. This was
they spent most of their budget on Kool-Aid for a bloodbath sequence, which
yeah, the phone, like the bubbles coming up on that. A little effervescence in that tub scene. I
then I'm
noticed.
pretty sure that's my favorite scene in the movie too, the bathtub scene where the water just instantly turns. There's no like subtle fade. It's just hard cut from normal bath water to this Kool-Aid bath
They
water.
did not
stand
have
up
bath
with
bombs
leeches.
in 1977.
To stand up with leeches that I'm pretty sure they just painted leeches on her body.
Yeah.
And she is frantically scraping at herself, but nothing is moving. It looks almost sped up like it's in a Benny Hill sketch.
Yeah.
Like it is the best. That's the best scene in the whole movie. And then the other part I loved would shock no one. It is, of course, the 30 seconds of claymation of the food.
Yes.
Just decomposing right away.
Yes.
Honestly, fantastic. And I worked on a movie in 2020 that attempted to do a similar thing with an apple too. It was like less moving parts, but I was like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, I remember the even lower budget version of our attempt of doing this, and I was like, man, this looks really fucking good.
That's where the budget went, was whoever they paid for the stop motion.
That was an entire day.
Sequence.
That was a whole day.
Yeah, it's the word bitch gets thrown around a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Like an overwhelming amount, both in describing dogs and women. But the only time that it made me even slightly smile was when Cathy is playing a game with all the other kids and she says, all women are bitches, repeat.
Yes. Yeah, I wrote that down as well. So, you know, I think that Matt, so Kyle, we're not talking to Matt right now. This is just the boys over here in the corner.
The boys. Corner boys.
No, Matt, you can listen. You just can't say anything. I know why you picked this, because it's a so bad that you watch it with friends kind of thing. And Matt is proving your point because he's so animated in his distaste for everything. I get it. And I got it when I was watching it, but I was watching it alone.
I know.
Yeah, I also watched it alone.
It's just, I do this every, I mean, I don't, well, I might
What was
do
the
it
New
every
Year,
time.
New You shit? Remember?
Well, these are still picks from the old year. You still...
I started out strong with Ghost of Frankenstein, guys. I feel really confident about the way 2024 is going for me.
No, but I think that you and I have talked about this before, Scott. The problem with... There's two versions of So Bad It's Good. And one version is like a movie like Troll 2 or Birdemic or any of these movies where it is like scene or The Room, scene after scene after scene. You're just like, I can't believe how bad this is. And it just keeps upping the ante on the So Bad It's Goodness of it. But there's not like a lull to it.
Right.
Then there's these movies where it's like, it's got So Bad It's Good moments, but there's still like them trying to make a movie inside of there where you're just like hanging out for 20 minutes for exposition to get to the next thing,
Well,
and I think that's
in the
where
70s,
it falls apart a little bit.
they had to, like
Yeah,
this was.
no,
They
I
knew
mean,
where this was going. They knew this was going to drive-ins, right?
Yeah. It's I mean we'll get to my double feature later on, but I know but so a positive version of this, like this is almost like the Sentinel to me, in the sense of like the Sentinel has a lot of plot, and then you get these like amazing gnarly scenes that are like holy shit.
Yeah.
This is like the inverse of that, where you also get these slow moments of plot, but instead of like the gnarly, crazy good special effects scenes, you get these like, Jesus Christ, like all the credit in the world to the actress playing Cathy. She is fucking going to town when she's supposed to be smacking her face into the pillow because the dog won't start barking.
Yeah.
Like,
no, she went in hard, like,
and she never acted again after this. She like did this for her mom.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was about to say she was just like, I can't top this.
No, it literally was like her, like I think it was like the family was hurting for money, and this was like they were looking for a child to do this movie.
And she got it. It was a cold winter, and
she got it. They got some money to help with whatever bills they needed help with, and she's like, "Yep, never doing that again. I'm moving on with my life."
Dude, I mean, I imagine it doesn't look like it was a very fun movie. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look like it was a fun one to make. I think that like the other, I will say the other thing that interested me, and I thought so more this watch, was how. I know there is a subgenre of like movies where mom is maybe fearful of child, right? Like there is a thing that exists there, but this was more like the child clearly, like there was no question that like Cathy was, or some version of Cathy was attacking mom, but we still didn't like address it. Like there was just like abuse in this household that nobody talked about.
Yeah, and it's so weird because for 1977, the dad is written with so much emotional intelligence for the wife. He's like, because and I know that we really don't need to talk about the actual plot too much. I mean, it's
no.
The whole conceit
it's barely
is
a plot.
Yeah, well, it's
like
they move into this house that was apparently the dad's childhood home. I don't actually know who the girl. I never caught what the relation to the dad, the girl possessing Cathy is.
So I can tell you because of Wikipedia.
Okay.
So the beginning scene with the dad and the little girl burning up in the car. They are in that same house, and it's that the mother has ran away with the son Georgie. And they get in the car and crash and die, and now it's 30 years later. Georgie is moving back into the childhood home, and it's his estranged sister who died in the burning car has possessed his daughter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Evil
I picked.
Kyle,
picked
you picked a movie that you didn't even know what.
No.
He gets to get out of jail free for that.
I just got confused. I just got confused for a second. And it was more because of my beer selection. I wasn't sure that I picked the right thing. I picked Double Sinner. Which is a double IPA with marshmallow, because I was like, it seems like a familial problem that we're all making. And then there was that sort of like double, there was that moment where there was the aunt that then had like a demon version of her that was talking to Cathy, that was like a melty version, and then the regular version, and scared her out of the house. Which again, it felt like a scene from an Amityville that was not like, it felt like somebody wrote a scene for an Amityville movie that then never got made, and that's what happened there. But what do you got, Scott?
Spooky Ghost is called Dead Sleep.
Spooky
I
Ghost.
love that.
I don't know what
cute.
it tastes like. This is made by Dancing Gnome. I literally just picked it for the outside.
Here's to Cathy and her curse. I don't know. I forgot. I think it was one of those movies. It was a movie that had moments that I was like, this will be fun. And again, choosing a movie that you don't watch with people is always a toughie. And that's why it took me 3 times. Carly kept saying no, which I understand. And as a valid answer every time. I was like, hey, because she's watched it before too. She's like, no, I don't want to watch.
She's like,
Cathy's
I love
curse.
you, but I've already done my duty as your wife.
my part.
Yes.
I'm good. good with that.
I love the fact that we got sidetracked enough that I didn't even get to the story. It doesn't matter. But it's just that I was going to say that the emotional intelligence of the husband is great, but the fact that his daughter is manipulating and abusing his wife, her mother, is completely lost upon him, which I understand that it just moves the plot along, but still ridiculous. For a man who has written so well.
There has to be some sort of question. Yeah. Right? Like, mom is in bed, like, being like, she did this. And I understand that maybe there's this sort of paternal or, not paternal, but parental, rather. Paternal in this case, but parental, period. Thing of, like, I have to believe my child, but, like, and this
but wouldn't
is
you
clearly
believe an adult over a little shitty kid that, like, is obviously being a brat, Like...
Yes. Yeah,
that's shitty parenting. If you're like, I'm gonna believe the 8-year-old or whatever.
Well, especially since it happened right at the move and right when they like. I mean, all. And
does he know that his sister and dad died in a fire?
See, that's a big question. You'd have to wonder when your mom took you away from home, whatever happened with my dad and my sister
like not both kids. Yeah. Just the one. That is generational trauma with capital G and a T. That is bad. That's a bad life.
When she was given Sophie's choice, she had an answer locked and loaded, and the answer was George.
Yeah, and when she answers that quick, you have to be like, Mom, are you sure?
Like Matt said 2 weeks ago, you can just make more.
Yeah, you can just make more. I don't understand what the big deal is. One of the other things that I had to laugh at, just because
renewable resource,
it's perfect, is the voice that they've picked for this demonic laugh. Whatever, like when we get to the end of the movie, it's just like, like again, sounds like a character in a video game. Yeah. Like it sounds like you walk into the dungeon.
Bad guy in Altered Beast.
Do you like to laugh, geek out on music, and learn all about that band or artist who had that one song back in the day, but then seemed to fall off the face of the earth? If so, you need to subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Together with an array of interesting and hilarious guests, we do a weekly dive into one-hit wonders like Eiffel 65's Blue, Krayshawn's Gucci Gucci, EMF's Unbelievable, Delamitri's Roll to Me, Los Del Rio's Macarena, Musical Youth's Pass the Dutchie, and even Patrick Swayze's She's Like the Wind. So are you subscribed to One Hit Thunder or what? As Desiree would say, you gotta be. And as K7 would encourage, you gotta come, baby, come and join in on the fun of the One Hit Thunder podcast.
Come, baby, come, baby, baby, come, come. Come, baby, come, baby, baby, come.
I referenced this last week. I wanted to bring this up now. The actor who I am the most impressed by, because if there was ever a scene that I could not film, it would be this guy who is having to sit perfectly still as rats scurry around his feet. A spider is crawling up his arm, and he's staring down a snake, and he's just staring at it, unblinking for most of the shot. And I'm like,
they gave him actual whiskey for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even care if you told me that none of those things could hurt me. At a certain point, it's just uncomfortable. You're just making me do a very uncomfortable thing right now.
They drugged that dude up. They were, like, you ready?
I do love that dude has no problem just getting ripped with an 8-year-old.
I mean, Cathy the barmaid, she knew what she was doing. She brought out the Glenfiddich or whatever.
It's not even one of those things where you could justify it by being like, oh, she's possessed by like the mom, so she no, it's still an 8-year-old girl possessing another 8-year-old girl.
Maybe mommy left because she liked the brown stuff too much, and so the little ghost girl is like, I know this stuff is evil, I'm gonna use it. But you guys know that song "Booze Me Up and Get Me High" by Ween?
Vaguely.
No, but that's
man,
but yeah, but yes, I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
I asked Megan the other day. I don't even know how it came up. I asked,
"Hey babe, do you like Ween?"
Oh, I knew the answer to that, so I didn't ask that. I told the Alexa to play Big Jim from Pure Guava, and she didn't understand, so I just started Pure Guava from the beginning because I knew that it was like 4 tracks in. Ween is the most unsettling fucking band. Like, I listen to the most depraved, abrasive death metal on the reg. Ween makes me scared. It just feels like drugs. And so getting to Big Jim, I had no enjoyment of making my wife listen to Big Jim.
Ween scared. I've stayed away from Ween because of what you're saying. I think that I think that unfortunately, because of my appreciation of sort of the weird and oddball has come and gone as far as music goes. Like I just like Primus, so I think I'll stay in that realm.
Primus actually has skill, whereas Ween just has drugs. And the thing is that like I'm just realizing now that if anybody asked me, can you explain when you went to college without telling me the years, I could just say, we used to get drunk and sing Ween and think it was funny. Because it's that edgelord fucking humor from the early 2000s. It's awful. You know, like Spinal Meningitis. We used to sing that song when we would be drunk. That song's fucked up.
Yeah, no, Ween
explains everything.
Actually, no, Ween is a less talented, more edgelordy They Might Be Giants. Like that's
absolutely.
what it comes down to. Like that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
All right. Well, Ween tangent aside, Kyle.
Yeah.
You picked this. What's your double feature gonna be?
I want to go Alice, Sweet Alice. I think that primarily the big thing for me is this odd relationship between Cathy and this old dude, and to me that's what stands out in Alice, Sweet Alice, and then all the fun stuff sort of happens around that. I don't know, like when I think about both these movies, I kind of think about those odd relationships that exist, so that's going to be my go-to, and I think at least Alice, Sweet Alice is a little more fun.
That's
which
solid.
If on Horror Finds you can buy Communion by Frank Laura, the book that in which Alice, Sweet Alice is based off of, and I'm really tempted to keep it for myself, but I'd much prefer it go to a better home. That's my also what's going on. But
go check out Horror Finds. Yeah. How about you, Scott?
I'm going The Conjuring because they're basically the same movie, and you know how you're talking about the dog death in Cathy's Curse? The dog death in The Conjuring works. That one was really distressing for me.
I'm gonna have a bad night.
Feature.
I'm gonna have a bad night because I'm going with a double feature.
It's gonna be a bad night.
I'm not trying to improve the night. I'm just going with what stylistically this movie made me think of over and over and over again, and I like this movie a lot more than the film I'm double featuring it with. I would say it's the movie I'm double featuring it with is probably one of the 10 least favorite watches in my HMN history. But The Devil Times 5, it
feels right.
It just feels like it makes sense. But yeah, so Devil Times 5, aka People Toys. But Kyle, you gave us a sneak peek of your what's going on. As always for us, we're hitting Creature Feature in April. Go check out our website, hmnpodcast.com, to go buy some swag and some t-shirts, and find HMN Podcast on as many podcasting apps as you can. Podcasting apps, but also on as many social media sites as you can, be it Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and most importantly, Patreon. All right, Kyle, what did you watch, listen to, read, etc., and why was it the complete works of Ween?
Because I knew that this was going to happen. I knew that we were going to be talking about Ween when we talked about Cathy's Curse. No, did I tell you that it's not really what I want to talk about. I revisited Spookies, and I haven't watched Spookies since I watched it on VHS about 15 years ago. Even though I know it's an HMN staple, right? Spookies is huge, but
that doesn't mean
that's not what I want to. It's not what I want to talk about. It's just I just revisited it and it was nice. I watched a movie called The Ghoul. Now The Ghoul, I watched it on. Babe, we watched The Ghoul on Tubi. Yeah, it's a bad transfer. The sound is awful. Yeah. Thank you.
We love a wife cameo.
Yeah.
She's never here on Tuesdays. This is why I actually schedule, but because of the weather, work closed, and now she's just staring at me while I do this podcast.
There we go. So Carly makes her podcast cameo on Horror Movie Night, but she also appeared on the Horrors of Love podcast, which you should check out because she talks about The Brood.
Two what's goings on. What's goings on.
That's what I'm going from now on. No longer is it a Four Non Blondes reference. It's just going to be like, hey, you guys, what's goings on?
Well, so to take it one step further, I oftentimes quote Bret Michaels in Rock of Love, where he will always peripherally or adjacently go, "What's a going on?" Yeah. So that's my other "what's going on" type thing. So yes, no, Carly guest spotted on Horrors of Love with our buddy Jeanette Wall, and they talked about The Brood, and it's. Ooh. I mean, I'm a little biased, but
it was really good.
The psychoanalytic analysis of The Brood is fascinating.
Hearing
the movie
how educational Carly was talking about The Brood, I understand why she doesn't listen to our podcast. Because
I also know now why we should never do The Brood.
listen. She doesn't listen to any podcast. I mean, it was the fact that Jeanette got her.
Oh,
it
so
must
you're
have
saying
cost
it's not
her a lot
personal? Fine.
It's not do not take it personally. Jeanette must have paid her a lot of money to be on the podcast. No, but anyway, definitely listen to that episode. It's very fun. It's very analytic. If you dig Cronenberg, The Brood, etc. But I watched The Ghoul, which had Peter Cushing as this. It had Peter Cushing and John Hurt, and it is a movie about a group of high class people who are celebrating maybe New Year's. It's hard to say. Who decide that, hey, we're gonna race our it's like maybe 1940s. We're gonna race our 2 cars through the English countryside, and whoever comes back is a winner. I don't know how that works. Whoever makes it to the sea is a winner, and they get lost, and a woman goes up and she finds a house, and there's a big spooky guy, Peter Cushing, who lives in this house. There's some race-based shit in here. Like, there's clearly somebody who is not of their race, who is not. They're not in blackface, but it sucks.
Great. Yeah,
it sucks. But there's some sort of fun. It's not Hammer horror, but there's some sort of fun, like European 60s, 70s moments that are happening here. And then it's exploitative. It's weird. It's lightly exploitative. It's like, it's not like gore and boobs and like that type of exploitative. It's more of like, it's just tone deaf. It's tone deaf in sort of the things that it talks about, but in that Hammer horror era way. The transfer that I saw is not great. I don't know if there's a better transfer that exists out there.
Would a better transfer really fix it?
No, unfortunately not. But Peter Cushing is always sort of fun to watch. Like, he is a captivating actor, and John Hurt is as well. John Hurt kind of plays a drifter, the son of Peter Cushing's character, but they clearly don't get along, or they're not on the same page about things, and it's fun. It has this sort of like old English vibe while also being I don't know, not transgressive in the right ways, but a little odd.
You guys, listeners, Matt, Kyle, everyone involved, go read the Ghoul 1975 Wikipedia plot. It's hilarious. It's not
okay.
The content,
well, I will
it's
do that tonight.
Way that it's written. It's incredible. Someone put a lot of time and effort into it, and they thought that they were doing something.
Well,
good.
That'll be my evening entertainment tonight,
yeah, because I would suggest that, Scott, over watching the movie.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
I'm gonna do this one fairly quick, but I read a book. You know how sometimes at Christmas time you're shopping for other people, and then you see something that you really want, so you're like, well, Christmas is about giving gifts to the people you love. So I was buying
That's called
books.
Self-care, baby.
Yeah, I was buying books for my family members, and I stumbled upon a new book called The 60 Songs That Explain the 90s by Rob Harvella. And boy, was that a book designed explicitly for me. So I grabbed it. It's actually based on a podcast on The Ringer. He's done over 60 episodes. He's actually about to do 120, and then he said he's done at 120. But the book is very, 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 very funny. His chapter about Metallica specifically had me cackling because he explains... And I forget the analogy. He uses a sports analogy, which is usually lost on me, but still the general vibe made sense to me, where he was comparing Lars Ulrich as a drummer to a specific football quarterback from the 90s. And he's like, both of these people are one of the greatest in their profession, while also being insanely overrated by the lack of talent in the field at the time that they were at their peak.
Do you remember the quarterback's name?
I can find the book and I will let you know. But I remember reading that and just like laughing out loud. And then he also just described the early Metallica albums as sounding like really great guitars happening while a trash can was falling down a flight of stairs in the form of Lars's constant drum fills instead of just having a steady beat to keep the song going. But yeah,
people that overdo drummers that overdo fills are because they can't stay on beat.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good fun read. He really does cover the whole gamut of 90s music. So I really recommend the book. It's a delight. And Scott, take us home.
Now, I'm not going to tell you this anecdote because it's a good movie, but rather because of the experience of rewatching it. Now, I rewatched Lucy, which is a Scarlett Johansson vehicle from, I want to say, 2016, 2018. It's relatively recent. It's not good. They got Morgan fucking Freeman in it too. I mean, it's a big budget movie. It's also very high concept science fiction where it's basically if Limitless was written by someone with even less sense of reality. So the concept is that Scarlett Johansson's character becomes a drug mule by accident for this experimental drug that they put in her tummy. And then she's in this, hostage situation. She gets kicked in the stomach and it releases a bunch of the drugs. And so that it's the whole concept of the movie is based on the urban legend that we only use 10% of our brains. So what the drug does is it expands your consciousness so that you can use more than 10% of your brain. But as she begins to utilize more of her brain, the drug somehow kind of takes away her humanity and also starts to disintegrate her body. She eventually becomes a bioorganic computer, and then she gifts all of her 100% using her brain knowledge in the form of a USB drive to Morgan Freeman, the scientist. Now, that's the second time I've watched it. It's a very silly movie. I don't like it. I just needed something to watch in the middle of the night when I was trying to get back to sleep for a couple nights. So that's not the story. The story is me trying to explain to Megan what the movie is about, and every 2 sentences she's like, "Oh my God, you're kidding. How did this get made? This isn't real." Those were like, it was basically, she was the punctuation of the plot synopsis. Fantastic. One of the best car rides I've had with my wife in like 6 months.
All right, so that's Scott's recommendation to all you is explain Lucy to your significant other.
Yes.
Only if they understand that you're not mansplaining Lucy.
Well,
yes. Yeah.
Whether you're mansplaining or just explaining, you could probably get a similar result trying to explain the plot beats of Cathy's Curse to your significant other. So stay tuned for more horror movie night next week when the possessions haven't stopped just yet. So we're gonna just keep the possessions. It's the month of possessions here at our movie night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.